it's hard to keep track of all the tournaments if certified refs got an email blast, hey, here in the next 3 months, these tournaments, registration for referees will open up, on this date or whatever, just so that we've got an idea of regionals and, 6 or 7 of the big tournaments. Certainly not every one, because there's 20 tournaments a week, but.
We get that from Bob Unitich. He sends it out regularly to all of us.
Bob, put me on your list.
Ron Potter wants to
Yeah.
be in Florida.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, and who's to
Can we
say
vote?
I won't?
Can we vote on it?
I have a car.
Gunner?
Has there been any discussion or dialogue, or maybe something in the next year, or being visited to get rid of line judges and have a down ref?
It's a trend that's come up.
I'm sorry, another ref.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think there was a video that was shared on Facebook, or a Facebook post. It's got a lot of attention. And let me just tell you, right now, we're not doing anything with that right now. It's something that we'll at the right time, we'll study. The NCRC will talk about it, but I don't want anybody getting all excited about the potential for a 2-ref system, no line judge.
Thank you.
So no, that doesn't have a whole lot of legs to it right now. It is something that's got some interest. There are some pro players that are very interested in this, but right now, we'll take it under advisement, but in the right time, we'll talk about it.
And that's just so I know the answer.
Yeah.
Because we kind of get, I ask a lot, so I just know the answer for those.
And I've been very open. I've answered this a couple of times. Look, folks, if that ever goes anywhere, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to beta test it. We're going to take data. We're going to do it the right way. We're not going to jump in and go do something that's not even in the rule book. It's not even in the handbook.
Sure.
Okay, and so I've had a very firm discussion with the individual who tested this thing out, and he understands where I stand on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bill.
Can you address, we've got this new organization out there, PPA. Is that an allied organization? Is it going to be a competing organization? Do you have any information on where that's going?
All right, so I'm not a very good authority on that.
Can I address that?
Yeah, I was going to ask Byron to do so, because I know Byron's right smack in the middle of this.
Okay.
What's
The-
PPA?
Huh?
What's PPA?
The Professional Pickleball Association.
Thank you.
And it's an organization that was formed by a gentleman in Utah by the name of Connor Pardo. And the PPA is, come to think of it, like, the ATP is to the USTA, the PPA is that. It's an organization formed to run a series of tournaments. There's also the APP, which is Association of Professional Pickleball. And they're not necessarily competing organizations because they're running their tournaments on different days, but they're after the same goal. That is world dominance of pickleball, sans the USAPA. And what I've been working on with them for the last several months is to get them to be incorporated into the USAPA's fold, and they've agreed to be sanctioned by the USAPA. They're not a competing organization to the USAPA. They are just a body that is set up to run a series of tournaments, and they have their own designation as to point system that they're going to use. The PPA is going to have 8 tournaments, 5 of them $50,000 each, and then they're going to be 3 Grand Slam tournaments of $100,000 each. The APP going to have 11 tournaments. 10 of them will be $25,000 each, and their version of the Grand Slam will be a $40,000 tournament that's going to be held in, what's the name
Punta Gorda.
of the Pickleplex in Punta Gorda. So for those of you who are interested in refereeing in those tournaments, there's some information on Facebook about it. I'm the quote-unquote head ref for the series. I would like you, if you can send me an email to let me know, or send me a Facebook message, let me know if you're interested in participating, because I'm at this point gathering up enough certified refs, because I'm trying to make a case to them that we've got competent refs out there that is capable of officiating a match at the highest standard. that, someone I think in one of the groups I heard said, I would rather have no refs than have a bad ref. Well, we're not about that. We're about putting out, I'm sure every one of you as a certified ref would pride yourself in doing a very good job. And so if you're willing to participate in it, talk to me about it.
Are
Okay?
both of them strictly pro tournaments?
No, they're not strictly pro.
Okay.
There's a skill level part to it, but obviously they're promoting the pro side because that's the glitz and the glamour of it. But really and truly, most of these pro tournaments cannot be run without the skill level portion. There's not enough money being funded in the pro side. The PPA, if they decide to just run 4 tournaments, with $500,000, $569,000, can do it. But they've chosen to run several other tournaments, but they've got to underwrite that cost somehow, because right now they're self-funding for the first year. Hopefully they've garnered enough attention that the second year and third year they'll get outside sponsors.
So Byron, let me, if I may, you're saying this is not a competing organization, but you are going to be pulling USAPA referees away from other tournaments.
Not necessarily. I said only those who are interested in doing it.
Who are going to be pulled
But they're
from
sanctioned
other
tournaments.
They're sanctioned, they're going to be sanctioned tournaments.
Byron, here's what I need to know. Are they paying $7?
For those of you who are sitting over in the incentive program, what I'm actually working on is, the goal is right now to have $25 paid for refereeing of finals, $20, either $15 or $20 for refereeing bronze medal match, and $10 for refereeing regular matches. That's good. That's what I'm working on. Am I going to get it? I don't know, because a lot of these tournaments, they don't budget themselves for referees. And it's an afterthought. And I'm trying to put it on their forethought so that they can at least recognize that you cannot pay referees $7 a match, and when you're refereeing an average of 10 matches a day, that's $70, and you're spending $1,000 just to get there, lodging, food, travel, and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and now they're paying these players $10,000 first prize money. Okay, well, somebody's got to officiate that match. There's $10,000 and there's $7. Doesn't make sense.
And when you've we've discovered that when you've got some serious money and prize money, they need to have a confidence level in the refs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The other question?
All right, any other question? Yeah.
How's the rule book coming along?
I'll get to that. It's on my list. Good question. I'll tell you about that. Any other issues on this? Bill, did you get it answered? Yes.
I did, thank you. Thank you, Byron.
All right, let me go back to Doug's question. All right. So I have asked the evaluators that are here at Nationals, they're actually going to have a meeting about this later today or maybe on Sunday. I've asked the evaluators, and I've asked the tournament directors and gotten permission to do this. There are no assessments being done, no level 1, 2 assessments being done during the Nationals. There's no evaluations being done during the Nationals. But what will be done is that the evaluators will be out into the stands and watching us. They're going to watch themselves. Evaluators are going to watch evaluators. Evaluators are going to watch me. They're going to watch you. And the purpose of that is to identify a couple things. Number one, if you're doing things particularly well, we want you to continue doing those. If you're not measuring up to the handbook, we want to tell you. And then the third thing is we want to collect that data, not by name. There will be no names collected. So the information that they observe will come to you directly in a one-on-one coaching session after the match is over, after you turn in the score sheet. All right? And it'll be to you personally. The data will be collected so we know what to do. When we did the update here, we'll know what kind of weaknesses we're finding. It'll also provide feedstock into the continuing education program.
Sure.
Will we know if you're there?
Pardon?
Will we know if we're being observed?
Well, okay, now that's one thing the tournament directors asked us to not do. We don't want the evaluators, and they will not be standing next to you on the court.
Right.
They'll be in the stands behind you, and, well, if they have their white shirts on, you'll probably know why they're there.
We know who you are.
No, you're evaluating.
This is, and I've asked to be the first person done, okay? So we're all going to get exposed to it. It's really to help us to raise the standards It's the kind of thing we just talked about over in this group.
Are these actual evaluators or?
Oh, yeah, these are
Yes.
the real evaluators. All right. So you see,
I didn't know if they were just certified refs or evaluators.
These are,
Okay.
these three, Byron is a fourth one.
Gail.
Yeah, we've got the Layman's here, Gale's here. So these are the folks that just. Yes, Ken.
Real quickly, I think it's important that we don't know if they're there. unless we
Yeah,
have to
really.
know them.
Yeah.
So wigs?
Because I want to be observed how I normally do. I'm not gonna, if I know I'm being watched, I might do something different. That's
Correct.
not good.
Well,
And
yeah.
as in The Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right? Yeah. So, but it may be hard. I mean, it's hard, you know, everybody knows who Byron is. He's coming to watch, he's not coming to watch the match, he's coming to watch us.
Blame me.
All right. It's just Halloween. Let me go to the rules. All right, so a lot of folks have been participating in the rules. Several, who here was a proofread? Doug, Melanie, Ken, yeah, so at least three of you in here. We had 8 people that took the existing 2018 rule book and we divided up into sections. We asked them to kind of proofread, make corrections grammatically, and try to improve the readability. All right, so that was the first thing we did. Second thing we did is we took a lot of input from a lot of people. And it came from those, many of you, because remember, when I first got into this job, I said, now's your time. If you've got any issues about the rules, now's the time to let me know. So I got some input from you. I got a lot of input by design. I asked Don Stanley, who's kind of our recording secretary of the Rules Committee. By the way, there's 5 members of the Rules Committee, and here's who they are. It's no big secret. It's Karen Parrish, myself, Jeff Shank, John Grasso, and Simone Jardine. So those are the 5 members of the Rules Committee. You'll notice one particular name in there. It's a little unusual. We wanted a player. We wanted a pro player on the Rules Committee, and Simone would be on there. She's a very strongly contributing member. So that's a little bit different by design. So the Don, at my direction, went back in about 6-7 months worth of Facebook entries, posts. It's a fascinating resource. It's not traditional, but he went back in the old Facebook posts on Ask the Pickleball Refs and the Pickleball Forum and found those rules that had a lot of energy around them, a lot of questions. We don't understand this. This isn't very well explained. How do you interpret this? So if you've ever participated or watched or read any of those, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So we wanted to take that opportunity to use that input, as untraditional as it is, and use that as feedstock for potential rules that could be changed. All right? There's probably over 100 of those, but we only picked about 53 rule changes that are right now that have gone to the Rules Committee and have gone to the Board of Directors and have been approved. So those 53 have already been through the board, already been approved. And now we're into the editorial phase. We have a single person who has volunteered. He's a player. He's a former editor and proofreader, professional at it. And I didn't want now, 5 different proofreaders in different sections, because then you get different parts of the rule book reading differently. So this one individual will take all that input and now put it in what should be I expect to be much easier to understand. So we're in the final stages of this. My goal and my expectation is to have that new rule book to each one of the certified refs no later than the 15th of December. So you have at least 2 weeks to absorb it, and then we'll go live with it on the 1st. No more of this April implementation. The other thing, yes ma'am. Let me touch on, because it's germane to this. The other thing that I put in that letter is I've asked, when Don Stanley gets here, he may ask you to help us communicate these changes. So we're going to have the traditional, here's what the old rule was, here's what the new rule is, and here's why it changed. Okay? So that'll be part of the communication. But I'm very interested in putting together short little video snippets and using you all to help deliver the message. What has changed? I think that'd be very credible if certified refs in your shirts here at Nationals with the same kind of backdrop. We'll give you the script. And if you want to, you can just read it if you want to. But give it to you ahead of time so you can help us communicate, so you'll see what those rules are. And I don't want to go over all 53 of them here, because I don't want to confuse you, it's hard enough for me and Don, and we don't want you confusing, 2020 with 2019.
So we use all 2019, even if...
All 2019. There are no 2020 rules we're going to put in place before the 1st of January. Yes, Linda.
Is that actually 53 rules changes or rework?
Well, okay, great clarification. I shouldn't say there's 53 rule changes. Most of these are better ways to communicate what the rule is.
The same thing, okay, so there's only a few actual changes.
There's a couple of, I think you're going to be as referees, I think you're going to be very pleased with a couple of these. It'll make it very easy, much easier for us as referees. And it's on readiness of players, I won't get into it.
Will there be a list, Mark, like there was of what the changes are in front of the book?
Well, there already is.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to use that as kind of the background for the script that we're going to ask you to help us communicate. So typically the way this video would go is, this is what the current rule is, here's what's changing. And then we're going to take those videos, put them on the USAPA website, so that any member then can actually go on the USAPA website and see you all talking about the changes.
Any of those rule changes affect the referee handbook?
Yes.
And when will the referee handbook be out?
Well, same time. No later than 1 January. Yes, Bob.
I'll pass this one. Go ahead.
Okay. Any other questions? I want to give you a glimpse of the future here. A couple things we're going to work on in 2020. Is anything for? Yes, Bob.
Okay, then I won't pass it.
All right.
So I made this comment, I think, to Marcia. On the USAPA website, when you go to rules and referees, referee training tools, the rule book is right there for everybody. The handbook requires a USAPA member login. As somebody who does a lot of training, I would really like to have that handbook more easily accessible. Some people that request training are not yet USAPA members, and I hate to put them off by saying, well, I'm sorry, you can't get access to the handbook until you become a member. I would like to urge USAPA to make the handbook as accessible as the rule.
Yeah, so that's come up. Melody and I have had some great discussions about that back and forth in email. I understand the interest in that. There's a good counter argument to that I think is worth sharing a little bit of time with. But if there's a strong reason to open that up, we'll certainly take that under advisement as an NCREC. What I'm worried about is, and I'll just be honest with you, I want folks who are coming to the training to have some skin in the game.
Yep.
And the skin in the game right now, the only thing we have is that USAPA member, because we're not charging anything for training. You might collect a donation to help defray travel expenses for the trainer, but there's no fee that's charged. There's a couple of advantages to having them pay the fee, become a member to get access to the handbook. And the big one is insurance. Once they become a member, now they're indemnified as if something happens to them on the court, they're protected and you're protected as a trainer. So the insurance is a big thing from a training standpoint that they get by being a member. If they're not a member and they come and they get hurt, then that opens us up for some legal action that I'm not sure we really want to go down that path. So so I see that's one way of doing it, is having them pay the USAPA to get access to the handbook. But, well, again, we'll talk about it. And we'll see where we go with it. I understand it because Melody argued it very, very persuasively. And I think I understand both sides of the issue. Yes, sir. Randy?
Is there anything being done to establish some requirements to be a trainer instead of just downloading the manual to make you a registered
Yes,
trainer?
oh, Marcia.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is,
gosh.
I'm really excited about this. She's put a lot of work into this. And
Well, actually, it's already in place. There is no longer a referee trainer guide. The button is still there, but the guide is not out there. Okay, so when someone actually, clicks the button to try to get the referee trainer guide, they still get that same application, and what we do is we will send that registration form to the regional referee training coordinator for them to contact that person and make a determination as to whether they are really interested in becoming a referee trainer. Most of the times they are not. They're really just trying to either train themselves or find a training class. But we are changing the process so that we will have an application for people who are interested in becoming registered referee trainers. Again, that's going to go to the regional referee training coordinator for them to review the qualifications that they have listed, to contact a person and make a determination as to whether or not they are going to be suitable as a trainer. Now, it may be that they're already involved in training and have a good grasp of it, in which case the referee training coordinator can kind of just anoint them and, make sure they've got their appropriate materials and everything like that, and they're following the proper process. It may be a situation where they're really interested in being a referee trainer, but don't have the background for that, and that's where the referee training coordinator will basically train them, and put them through the paces before they would actually be considered and registered as a referee trainer.
What about those that are already registered trainers, but that got that way under the old
The old
system?
way. The referee training coordinators have gone through their list to cull out people who were, not really training people or not suitable for as a referee trainer. So those lists have been culled.
But those lists are not updated yet. We still have people in Mid-Atlantic that are not teaching that are on that list.
Well, they will get cleaned up, but the main thing is that they're, that you know that they're not actually referee trainers.
Yeah, so I think it's important that you know that the referee training coordinator, nobody gets to become a trainer unless the referee training coordinator says you're okay to be a trainer. So Randy, that's really the secret here is that referee training coordinators have the authority to anoint people as a trainer. So they shouldn't be anybody who's registered as a trainer. They can register for interest, but to become an actual trainer, to make sure they're using the right standards and they're teaching the right way, that's the referee training coordinator's responsibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yes, Jen.
If this is off topic, then you can say, don't answer it.
Okay.
I'm noticing that as a certified ref, because now it's getting more serious and we're wanting to keep it like this, I remember Byron one time said he would say, most important thing is let's have fun. And so I thought that's great because it's supposed to be a great sport.
What did I say?
You said
You said you were going to dance on the court.
Yeah. So my question is, just is center court where we need to make sure we're very impartial, have no emotion, just say what we need to say, and then the other times that you can be a little more pleasant and stuff, or what would you like us to do to have the standard that you're asking us to have?
I think you can be professional and have a good time at the same time.
Yes.
I think, I don't want to change anybody's personality, but I do want to raise the professionalism of the court, the referee court. The players are going to demand it of us. They're, this is the game, and we've all read this, we've all talked about it. It's no big surprise. The game's not about us. It's about the players. So, yeah, and so let me share with you, this may not be known by a whole lot of folks, but Byron's got a new responsibility within the USAPA, and it has to do with being kind of the chairman of a players committee that he's bringing together. So I'll let Byron, you want to talk a little bit about where that's going and what you see there in response to Janae's question.
Sorry, Byron.
No, that's all right. Just to address slightly what you just said.
Come on.
Use the microphone. Or just sing it.
You don't want me to do this. All right. Just to address your what you just brought up. And I've had this discussion with a lot of professional players since the advent of the U.S. Open, where the mantra is to go out there, have a good time, pump up the crowd, get them all excited, and do your best to make sure you at least call a fair game and be responsible and be professional at the same time. And I say now to players, or to referees, go out there and have fun, just as Marcus just attested. It's now, you don't want to become a dictator out there. You don't want to come across as being, I'm in charge and I'm going to enforce the law. But you want to be at least pleasant, but be forceful enough to where they understand that you're in charge of this game. To address what Mark just mentioned, the USAPA has asked me to be the director for professional pickleball under the auspices of the USAPA. And that's one of the things that I was talking about, the PPA and the APP. I've been going about talking to all these tournaments that are putting on money tournaments, all the tournament directors, I should say, that are putting on money tournaments, and encouraging them to come under the auspices of the USAPA. The whole goal is to develop a standard similar to the USTA, to have each tournament adhere to one policy in terms of how they conduct the tournaments. They can run it the way they see fit, but we will start off with one simple thing like player conduct. Today, there's no ramifications to a player if they behave in an egregious manner that warrants them to be kicked out of a tournament or be suspended. One of the things that we will be doing with the new professional organization is to have a standard that all tournament directors would adhere to, and that is if a player is suspended from one tournament, they cannot go to the next tournament the next week and say, I want to sign up. No, they cannot sign up. We want to have a ranking system put in place. The process has already started. Today we really, we can apply a subjective assessment to who is the #1 player in the country. We will have this point system that will be in place. It's not the UTPR, which a lot of people think that you can convert that to become the #1. These players change partners all the time, and so to say who's #1 out of that is a tough thing. But if each individual be gaining a point for every win they have, and second place or third place, at the end of the year we can then total that up and see who is the best. Like the FedEx Cup, you get the number of points at the end of the year. We'll be determining that. So more news to come on this. We've just got started with the process. Hopefully something can be rolled out by January 1st. But in the meantime, certainly the referee portion of it is something that is near and dear to my heart, as you guys well know. And I want to see referees really compensated under this new regime of professional pickleball out there. Okay?
Thank you. I'm going to make a pitch here. I really appreciate what Byron's doing here. He's really advancing part of our professional responsibilities that doesn't have a whole lot of attention. So Byron's actually given it a really good focus. And Byron, he makes things happen. So I'm anticipating some good things, and we'll see. I will ask you though, this is an important thing for all of us to remember. Our first priority as certified referees are those regional tournaments. Those tournaments have to be run exceedingly well, and you all are part of that. So if there's a sanctioned tournament for pay over here that's conflicting with a obviously sanctioned USAPA regional tournament, our priority has to be here. Okay?
And I want to, one of the things that I've done is to ask every tournament director to ensure that when they're scheduling their tournaments, that it's not conflicting with any regionals. Because that, like Mark said, that's a priority, and I don't think we ought to be having these other tournaments come and overshadow what the regional is all about. So they will, if once they're sanctioned, they will be adhering to the tiering system, tier 2 sanctioned to qualify for nationals. That will still be in place. But yes, we're going to work around all those regionals.
All right, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. Going back to the consistent with the rules. And I know we're working on getting the rule book revised, but there's also the case book. And in the case book, there are a couple of instances where it says unpublished. And it doesn't have it written anywhere in the rule book. And I'm wondering if there's some guidance on how we are going to resolve that.
Well, I actually have it here. So one of the things I want to talk about is the case book, because that's one of the things that's going to be a focus for 2020. So let me touch on a couple aspects of the case book. Rightly or wrongly, the case book in the past has been used as kind of a repository for rules and updates that need to be made to the rule book, but we needed some place to put them so we didn't forget them, right? Or there were issues that came up that we had to get a decision by the Rules Committee on, and then it stayed in the case book, and then it would get into the rule book the next year. There may be opportunities where we would still use it in that case, but that's not personally where I think we ought to be driving. So we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about this, but I've talked individually with each members of the NCRC, and I think we're kind of on board here. That case book is going to be a true case book where there's scenarios that have happened, and this is the way you would apply the rule to this scenario. Not that it would be a place where we put the rules. So there are 4 casebook entries that have already been approved by the Rules Committee that are going to go into the casebook early in the year, and a number of other opportunities to expand the casebook. And once it's in the casebook, it's there for the life of the casebook. So that's where we're going to head with the casebook. So the items that are in there now have been swept out as part of the rule changes for 2020. But so right now that's why we're waiting for 2020. We're going to start with a clean slate, nothing in the casebook, and then you'll start seeing true cases that have actually happened in a tournament with a referee, and here's how they either solved it using the rule book or how they should have solved it. That's where we're headed.
And they can be contributors to that.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, so if there are issues that come up that you had to apply Rule 13C on, because that's everybody's favorite rule, right?
The great
so if you had to apply 13C, then those are prime candidates for the casebook.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example. We'll take that, send them to me for now. I'm negotiating with Marcia. Marcia doesn't want to give it up. Marcia doesn't want to give up the casebook. But we may have 1 or 2 certified refs who help us bring the casebook alive.
Mark, how will we be notified anytime something's been added to the casebook?
So the number one, well, I think you've seen me adopt the email as probably the best communication method. It's very direct. I don't have to worry about somebody having access to Facebook or anything. So when there's a change to the casebook, the handbook, if we do any interim changes to the handbook, I'm going to try like the Dickens to avoid any interim changes to the rule book. But a handbook and a casebook, that'll be a direct communication email to you. Here's what's changed, and here, go take a look at it. Connor?
Even though the rule book is going to be in place, You know, I kind of look at it sometimes as a living document. There are going to be some rule along the way during the year that has to be modified in order to accommodate reason. In the past, years ago, they used to have an addendum posted on the USAPA's website if there was a modification to rules. That was apparently done away with over the past few years. Would that be something that you would want to re-engage doing?
Yeah, again, I haven't talked to the NCREC, but on a personal level, that to me is much preferable because it's part of the rule book.
Yeah.
So if there's a rules question, I want you to go to one place, the rule book. I don't want you to have to go to two different places to figure out what the answer to this rule interpretation is.
Yep.
So that to me is much preferable than putting it over in the casebook. So I've actually had this discussion with Justin Maloof, and we're not done talking about it, but I don't want to make changes to the rule book just to make changes. It's got to be real big because it affects thousands of people, right? To change the rule book, you got 1,000 people that are going to say, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that happened. But I want them to get into the practice of expecting a rule book change on the first of the year. Right. I don't want to have to, well, we're going to have one on the 15th of March and another one on the 24th of July. That to me erodes confidence in the USAPA, erodes confidence in us who are responsible for the rule book. And if there's one thing we got to get right, folks, we got to get that rule book right. All right, what else? How are we doing on time? All right. I've got one more topic I need to talk about, and it's a serious one that I need your help on. So I'm going to personalize this a little bit. I had a boss one day who called me into the office. I'd just been promoted. He called me in the office. He said, Mark, now that you're in this position, everything you do and everything you say is going to be scrutinized for the rest of your career. That was a great bit of coaching because I had never thought of it that way. And so I want to use that as the backdrop to talk about the same thing every one of us in this room. As soon as we put this white shirt on, this white polo, we become the example, whether we want it or not, for everybody else out there who aspires to be in this room next year and the year after. Everything that you do, everything that I do, is being constantly scrutinized by those who want to join our ranks. And it's not, folks, just on the court. They're watching us all the time. How we interact with one another, how we support one another, how do we talk about one another? Do we criticize each other, off in groups? Do we have little cliques over here, little cliques over here? Or with one big full team? They're watching everything that we do. And it's not just walking the venue. It's when we're off duty, if you will. So when we're socializing at 5 o'clock tonight, people who know that you're a certified referee, how do you handle yourself? So I want you to think about that very serious part of our job as certified referees. It's the example that we set for everybody else who wants to join these ranks, who wants to sit in this chair next year. It's a tremendous responsibility that we all bear, and it's an important one. We're about to open those doors, and I don't know how many are down there waiting, but there's a number of non-certified referees who are going to come up here, and they're going to come in that door, and they're going to make a judgment on how well we welcome them into this room. Do we treat them as pariahs when you're not certified, so you're not worthy? Or do we actually bring them in as part of the team? So they are part of the team. Chris?
And also as a player, I've seen instances where certified referees go up to that are playing in a tournament, go up to the referee and will say, you know, they kind of throw it around, hey, I'm a certified ref. I think that's also an example that we have to set as certified refs on the playing court as well to our, you know, to our allies in referees. So we have to respect the referees when we, as players,
Chris,
play that match.
That is so some of the, George touched on it, we're dealing right now with a complaint on a referee on this very issue. They were unable to differentiate between themselves as a player and the referee, and so in their player role, they wanted to impart some knowledge onto the volunteer referee. And did not respect their authority as the referee because they, in their minds, that volunteer referee made a bad call. So they wanted to use that as a teaching moment. Well, we're not teachers when we're players. We're players, we're not referees. So we have no business throwing out the I'm a certified referee card. If you want to do it after the match and say, can I give you some constructive feedback? After the match, that's okay. Not during that match.
In private, not in front of a big group.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and I wondered about this. At one tournament, I was just finishing reffing a match and got called to play my next match, and I didn't have time. My shirt was out in my car, and I wore my ref shirt. Should I have even done that, or should I have gone topless? Okay.
Not topless.
Yeah. I didn't have an option, but I thought to myself, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing
Byron's got an
this.
extra shirt.
I'm going to finish with this quote, and I'm going to give the credit. I got this actually from George, but I think this wraps it up really, really well. Then we'll close this out and bring in the non-certified refs. Expectations of professional conduct don't end at the end of the shift. That says